What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video on Bitcoin because the price action is looking pretty good, and we had a big moment for Bitcoin with the 19 millionth Bitcoin being mined, meaning the supply is getting lower and lower, and it is only getting harder to buy Bitcoin. So we'll see how that affects the market as a whole. But we also have huge whale buyers in the market and a lot of things shaping up on the chart, which we can look at right here, seeing that it's looking pretty decent. So we had a nice move up or here, breaking out of both of these red channels and then going up, breaking out of the wedge, and we got all the way to $48,224 before having a pullback and a little bit of a retest here. We pretty much bounced off of this top line here, 45K, and it wasn't enough. We came all the way back down and dipped a little bit below the top line of this wedge, but pretty close to bouncing off of that and hovering back up here and looking like we could be on our way back up. And it wouldn't be shocking to see if we can get our way up to this 51,000 mark, maybe get stuck or see some resistance at 50,000 just because it's a benchmark and it's a lot of psychological effects of 50K for people. So we might see resistance there. But the 51K is a line here, and with a whale buyer in the market, we're seeing a big potential for a huge move up in price because this move up here was only 10% of the buying has been done so far. So maybe a massive move coming, but it's always funny to see people at $46,000 for a Bitcoin be screaming about how bad that is. But if we just go back a little bit, because when Bitcoin was 28K, 29K, people were screaming that it was going to 10K to 5K, that it was going to be over, but it didn't happen, and we ended up rallying all the way to a new all-time high, and we're in the same kind of spot here where people at 32, 33K were screaming that it's all over, and we're seeing the beginnings of just kind of moving up. If you look back to this point, we have higher lows, we're going through here, higher highs now, and it's all just shaping up pretty good. The chart looking pretty decent. So if you're just staring at short-term things, then, probably not the best thing to do, especially with Bitcoin, because at 46K, if you were to go back a few years or a couple years and say this, people would be extremely happy to be at this price. But that's just what happens with the short-term site here. But the whale in the market is someone who can easily push the price and continue pushing the price up because they're going to be buying massive amounts of Bitcoin constantly. And that whale is this guy right here, Stable One. He's the founder, I think, of Terra Luna, which Luna is, or Terra is the stablecoin UST, and they want to back it with $10 billion in Bitcoin reserves. And as he says here, it will open up a new monetary era of the Bitcoin standard. And then it'll be P2P electronic cash that is easier to spend and more attractive to hold. So there's a lot of mixed opinions about all of this because people think, or some people about in Bitcoin think it's a bad thing for this to happen. They think that Bitcoin has to be everything, and then some people saying this is pretty good. At least people are using Bitcoin as a backing, as pristine collateral, like it has been meant to be. And I think that a lot of people are probably freaking out over nothing really. If you want it to be Bitcoin and Bitcoin only, I do think if you look over at Bitcoin with the Lightning Network, there's a lot of possibilities there where the Lightning Network can pretty much get rid of the need for stable coins and kind of transacting very fast. The Lightning Network can solve all of that very easily. But with saying, this whole thing would be wrong, doesn't really make a lot of sense because it is actually pretty decent of someone at least using Bitcoin and backing a stablecoin with Bitcoin. It's interesting to see it being done and how it will actually get done. But I don't think that it would be a bad thing. It's someone using Bitcoin for something that they think Bitcoin can be good for. And I mean, that's what Bitcoin is. Whatever you think Bitcoin is great for, it can be great for that. And even looking at the margin data here for Bitcoin, we can see the shorts absolutely collapsed. Didn't even stand a chance. And we zoomed out here earlier in the week, the massive spike up to 1600 Bitcoin short, and then the massive drawdown, and it's now hovering around 800, 850. and that's lower than where it was before because it was almost 1K before, hovering around that 1K mark, but now we're lower than that. Pretty normal shorts to see. This is usually where the shorts kind of hang out, 800, maybe like the 500 level. So even longs, though, we saw a move down to longs, which isn't a bad thing. When you see longs going down like this, just takes away from the downside risk. So big moves down in price don't have to be accelerated, because usually when price moves down, longs get liquidated and then they get wiped out. Price moves down even further. So that is less of a risk if longs are going down. So it doesn't mean it's a bad thing to see longs going down. We said the 19 millionth Bitcoin was mined a couple days ago, and only 2 million Bitcoin left to go. So the supply getting harder and harder to get. It will only get harder and harder to get Bitcoin over time as people continue piling in, and supply continues to be reduced through halvings for mining. So miners aren't going to be able to get as much Bitcoin. You're going to have to buy it on the open market, and the people are going to have to bid the price up if there's more demand. It's simple stuff: supply, demand. You got more demand, price has to go up to match it. So we are getting to this point where the Bitcoin incoming supply, or like inflation rate, isn't going to have a big effect on the market. And the move away from 4-year cycles could be because of this, because the halvings are going to have less impact. Where I still think when the halving happens, we'll have a big move up in price, but that bear market 80% drawdown, I don't think it's going to be happening, just because the supply dynamics are already in the market. It's not a bunch of miners selling Bitcoin to be able to pay for their mines. They have different ways to finance that, and the supply is pretty much all out there right now. And as for April, it's a very good month for Bitcoin historically, and you can see all these numbers right here. 2013, 50% in April. 2014 was negative 1.6, then negative 3.5, plus 7, and then a big streak of plus 32, 33, 34, 34. Last year, minus about 2. And what is this year going to hold? Nobody knows, but historically, it's been much more positive returns. We have only 3 negative returns out of the 9 total years here. So massively more amounts of positive returns than there are negative ones. And the positive ones severely outweigh the negative ones. You look at this: negative 1.6, 3.5, and then 2. And the positive ones are plus 50, plus 7, plus 32, 33, 34, 34. So they're massive gains, which could correlate to, Bitcoin price going up kind of naturally in April, as well as a big whale buyer in the market could just lead up for a massively bullish April for Bitcoin. And we can look at this chart here too, kind of this guy saying history repeating. And April is a great month to kind of see if this is a big move up. But we look at these kinds of local tops and bottoms. You see local top here into kind of sideways moves, and then an explosion up, and then it moves down into local bottom, and then sideways, another local bottom, giant move up, local top with a move up, and then moving down, local bottom with moving up again, kind of sideways down to a local bottom, but it's higher than the other one. And then a massive move up, local top. You see the pattern here. So these two local bottoms with moves up and coming back down, local bottom, which is higher than the last one. And could this lead to another explosion up in price? April is setting up for a good month for this to happen. The whale buyers setting up for a good reason for this to happen. A lot of things in the market are just looking pretty good for Bitcoin, for at least the price wise. Even fundamentals and stuff are still looking fine. There's nothing really going on there. But right now, are we looking at a giant move up for the price of Bitcoin, and maybe hitting a new all-time high pretty soon? So it wouldn't be surprising at all to see a new all-time high in Bitcoin a lot sooner than a lot of people might expect. I think there's a lot of people who are writing off Bitcoin, kind of saying a bear market's coming because it has to, because that's what's always happened in the past. But right now we're seeing massively different market. The supply dynamics are massively different, and the buyers are massively different. We have hedge funds, countries, billion-dollar corporations and companies and crypto projects now. A lot of people are getting involved in Bitcoin and backing things with Bitcoin, and it's just so much more complex than it once used to be. And the halving cycle is going to have less and less of an effect as we continue on into Bitcoin's life. But where are we staring down the 100K price figure that a lot of people were looking at before? Don't know if that's coming soon, but there's a lot of things shaping up that could make it happen before a lot of people are expecting. But as always, that's going to do it for this video. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in my next video.